Welcome back to CFP Nation. I'm your host this evening with my man, my co-host, Deep Fried Draft, Brian Bosarge. And we're on the screen together. You know the deal. It's the Garnet Roost. But before we get into all that, how are we doing tonight, my man?
It's a good thing we didn't record this Saturday night. We wouldn't have been able to put it on YouTube.
No.
We'd have got flagged.
Graham Mertz, huh? Made him look like he was Johnny Unitas. I don't understand. We'll get into it a little bit here, but you know what we do. We strive to be the best, the honest, the best podcast out there to break it down truly how we feel. We're not biased in any way. We're going to be the best South Carolina Gamecocks podcast in the nation. We're going to keep it right. We're going to hop into this rapid fire, my friend. Right off the rip. Are you ready?
Let's go.
Okay. Question 1. Did Coach Beamer show frustration and kind of have a mental meltdown with this foot incident following the game? Because Finnenbaum seems to think so.
Paul Finebaum's whole job is to stir up Southeastern Conference fan bases. So I'm not going to read anything into what he says. He's just trying to make money. And that's his whole deal. He's made himself rich by playing one fan base off the other. That's fine. But I tell you what, I'm probably glad I wasn't around Coach Beamer after Saturday night. I might have broke a toe or something myself, shoving it up his. We don't need to get into that. But this was just now he was. I mean, yeah, I'm sure he was frustrated. There was 80,000 people in that stadium frustrated as well, blowing a 10-point lead with 5 minutes to go.
Yeah, that's very, very true. I got another question for you. And this one, I think I'm with you. Okay, I've been with you the whole season, and I see it. But I also see this, and what I'm going to ask. Is Marcellus Style what we think he is? 4 straight games with 50% reception rate, and he had a touchdown this week. Talk to me.
What these last couple of games have showed me about Marcellus Style is he's not going to be a man cover corner in the NFL.
Okay.
That's what this has showed me. And we're gonna just tear into Clayton White, the South Carolina Gators coordinator, a lot on this podcast. So let's just go ahead and set the stage for that. This is gonna happen. But I think he got spoiled over the last 2 years with just man cover beasts with Cam Smith and Darius Rush, and thought that Marcellus Dial and O'Donnell Fortune would just slide right on in there and be like nothing happened. Well, obviously that ain't it, and that ain't what's happened. And like you said, 4 straight games now. Dials give up 50% completion rate, which is not gonna work. Gave up a TD this week. Mm-hmm. I think that, it might behoove the defense a little bit to move more to a more zone scheme, but is it the time to do that would have been in the bye week, right?
Yeah.
That time has passed now, so I don't think you can just completely overhaul a defensive scheme in 4 days. So we're kind of stuck here now, and this is what we get.
Yeah, and it's just crazy that a freshman is kind of leading that secondary in all aspects. Speaking of which, safety. And this is going to be a 2-part question. Really? Really? Talk to me.
The safety position, or the safeties, I should say, on the roster had a bad game. Saturday evening, that is without a doubt. Nick Emenwari probably had his worst game as a South Carolina Gamecock in this game. DQ Smith's been in bad spots all season long. This all came from your guy, our guy, Jalen Kilgore. And this is, I'm not saying any of this is his fault. That kid's playing his ass off.
Yeah.
And he has earned the starting safety job for South Carolina. The problem is you can't take Nick Emenwari off the field because he's too good. So what you're doing now is playing him out of position at nickel.
Yep.
And we're going to talk about it a lot more later, but he is not a nickel.
No.
He's a in the box safety.
Yeah.
Not a nickel.
That's where he eats.
That's where he eats in the box. He's not doing that now because Kilgore's now the in the box safety, and he's eating every week.
Yes.
Because he's good. And he's really good. And
leading the team in tackles with
leading the team in tackles, 3 weeks in a row. He may be the overall team leader in tackles. I don't know. I haven't looked that up. But because of that, and David Spalding has been banged up. He was expected to be the starting nickel coming into the season, but he's been banged up. But he's back now. But in order to keep Imanwari on the field, you've made Spalding the reserve nickel now. And he's not an outside corner. I'd say let's give him a shot out there, but he's not. So, and Keenan Nelson, who started at nickel in the bowl game against Notre Dame and had a solid Gator Bowl, he's a safety. He's a reserve safety now, or corner, I should say.
Yes.
So it's like he's not. He was forced into nickel, but he's an outside corner. So maybe he should be playing a little bit more too.
It seems like there's no adaptation or adjustment in that second. In a lot of places, in South Carolina, the only thing that they did seem to adapt to and adjust, we'll talk about it a little bit, is the line, right?
Right.
But
so Nino, normally these are 4 questions you ask me.
Yeah.
I'm changing it up this week because I saw this pop up and I was like, you know what? I want to bring this up. So, Nino, I'm going to ask you a question. What would South Carolina's record be, which is currently 2-4? What would their record be if they played the same schedule as the number 2 team in the country, Michigan Wolverines? What would South Carolina's record be? I'll run their schedule off to you right now.
Oh, boy. Yeah,
East Carolina.
Yep.
UNLV. Mm-hmm. Bowling Green. Rutgers. At Nebraska, at Minnesota, Indiana. What is South Carolina's record right now if they played those 7 games?
I saw you hopped in last night when we were live, right? And we were talking. Did you happen to catch me talk about Michigan?
I did not.
I said, we were talking about who the best team in the country is, and I'm like, well, you look at records or whatever. The best team that they beat is UNLV, and I'm cool with what Barry Odom's doing over there.
Oh.
But
Barry Odom and UNLV's making everybody money right now.
Yes, but it's UNLV.
It's
and
UNLV.
You're Michigan. You're supposed to...
Yeah, and you only beat them 35-7.
Yeah.
So what is South Carolina's record if they played those 7 games?
2, 4.
They're 7-0.
I think 6-1, 7-0. I think Minnesota. Maybe they could get slipped up on defense because sometimes we just don't know what O-line we're going to get. And if it's the trash O-line that shows up against Minnesota, Rattler could have a bad day.
So at worst, 6-1.
Yeah, I have to say that. Maybe they have a little struggle with UNLV because they can put up points, but they would ultimately win that game down the stretch, in my eyes.
And going forward with it, I think that they're at the very least favored in 2 of the last 5. They're favored against They would be favored against Michigan State, favored against Purdue. And I think they probably on the road, maybe a small dog to Maryland. Maybe.
Yeah, probably like less than 3, probably like 2.5.
Yeah, 2.5.
But Maryland's been surprising this year.
Now, I think they'd get worked by Penn State and Ohio State.
Yeah, because in my eyes, I think Ohio State's just starting to get in a groove. They're finding an identity.
Right. I'm pumped to watch that game this week.
I
stole that one from Shane, so I'm pumped to see that one. But so 6-1, 7-0.
2 losses max down the stretch. So 6-1, 7-2. Maybe look at what
they're a 9-3 team probably.
Yeah, I'm cool with that. We're looking good at 9-3 with that schedule. But this is
but not the number 1 schedule in the country that they played.
Yeah, they had the worst strength of schedule, right? And we knew that going in. They had a lot of promise. They came out, they looked somewhat good in the first 2 weeks. They got the tires popped, and now we're kind of just rolling on run flats here, and it's been a little bit rough. I looked at that when you put that on doc. I was like, man, this is a tough one because I've been saying it for a while. Some of these Big Ten teams, they got schedules that are cupcakes, and they've been getting cupcake schedules for a while. Granted, they have those 2 at the end, but I'll take those 2 at the end South Carolina any day of the week in that schedule of what we've had so far. Ah, man. All right. Let's get into the good, bad, and the ugly. One of my favorite segments of this whole show. Give me the good.
All right. I'm going to give a little bit to the offensive line this week.
Okay.
And before, let me say the offensive line before in the first half. Because they shook up the entire offensive line this week. The only guys that stayed at the same spot were the two true freshmen.
Yeah.
They left Trevon Ball, the true freshman, at right guard, and Tree Babalade at left tackle. They moved Trey Jones over to left guard. They moved Nick Gargiulo from guard to center. And then they moved Vershawn Lee from center to right tackle. And I thought outside of the first drive where I could noticeably see the snap velocity wasn't coming back to Rattler quickly from Gargiulo, but he figured that out. Like they worked on that on the sidelines. Every snap, the rest of the game, I thought was fine. And I thought they blocked really well. They got some big gashing runs in the first half. And everything looked good. And then Vershawn Lee, who I'm at this point thinking he's probably going to be out for the season based off what I've read today. Yeah. He came out and Fugar got put in at right tackle. No bueno. No. Four pressures and a sack and a half of football.
Yeah.
Not good. I wonder why they didn't put Wanamaker back out there,
who's played like a lot in the rotation early in the season.
Yeah, I mean he was the starting right tackle a couple of times to this point this season. I was wondering why he didn't go out there in the second half. Maybe it didn't matter. But I said I thought that the young offensive line played well when they were out there, and I know Rattler. He looked great. I'm not counting the YOLO interception against him at the end. Whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
Leggett again had another big game. Mario Anderson, who we're gonna talk about a little bit more in a second. You could argue this was his best game.
Yeah,
as a starting running back. And your guy, Trey Knox, what a game he had. Targeted 8 times, 8 catches, 50 yards, and a touchdown. Blocked his ass off.
Yeah.
Knox he's an NFL player. I don't think he's a day 1, day 2 guy, but he's a day 3 draft pick, make a roster impact player as a rookie, take snaps away. And I want to give a quick little shout out to Juju McDowell, who some limited reps, which I don't think they're going to be limited this week. Because he's gonna have to be, I think, the go-to guy. Had 2 catches, a rushing touchdown, a receiving touchdown. And then finally, Nick Harbor, 28 snaps this week, the most he's had all season. All of that came in 12 personnel, which seems a bit weird to me.
Yeah.
I mean, but why not get him out more when you're going to the 11? I don't know, but had 28 snaps, 2 targets, and the 1 big catch down the field for 45 yards. Per everything I read from Shane Beamer then this week, said he had the best 2 weeks of practice he's had since he's been on campus, which is why they got him more. And they're saying his role is going to keep expanding as we go forward. I'll believe it when I see it. I feel like I've heard this tale before, but you got to have weapons on offense. He is going to be one of your bigger weapons down the field. Let's get him more snaps than 28 in a game.
All right, good. Now I'm glad you clarified all that, because my question is, you can see it. I put it on the doc. It's like, is he just not ready? You know what I'm saying? But like now that you're saying these last 2 weeks of practice, we saw some snaps. But like you said, it was odd to me that it was in 12 personnel. So
I'm trying to think of why here, because I guess when you're going to your 11 personnel, you're getting your quicker guys out there, right? So, but I mean, he's fast.
Yeah.
He's the fastest player on your team.
That's what I'm saying.
But I guess just based on his size, they're like giving that illusion out there because you've got Knox and Simon. Simon, who, by the way, probably his best game.
Josh Simon? Oh, yeah.
As a Gamecock this week as well. So I guess that's the reasoning behind it. You just want to give the illusion of your biggest guys out there because Legette's a big guy too. He's 6'3", 217. No, so maybe that's why. Or maybe that's the only personnel grouping he's practiced with.
Maybe, and that's why I said maybe he wasn't ready, because like he hasn't gotten the full plate. They're kind of just giving him the appetizers. You know what I'm saying? Then maybe we'll see down the stretch here. He'll be able to get the full course meal. I'm gonna come up with a little bit of a hot take. Maybe it's not too hot. He don't really play football anymore. But is Trey Knox what everybody thought Michael Trigg was gonna be?
It's hard for me to say because I never actually watched Michael Trigg play football. I had gone into the season, with full intentions on watching him, and that ain't happening. So
I've seen a little bit of his high school tape, and I'll go by the hype and what we thought on paper of what he was going to be. It just seems like Knox fits that mold, right? The size, the hands, the block.
Well, he was a receiver at Arkansas,
right?
So he's bulked up to play tight end, and it's paid off.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think he's playing on Sundays. Juju, we talked about it a little bit. 2 touchdowns. Where was this versatility in the first couple of games before he got hurt? Because they seem to be wanting to run him up in between the hash instead of kind of moving him all around and getting him in space. They seemed, in the limited role he had, you know what I mean? They were getting him on the go. Instead of just running him right up the gut, or off the left tackle or whatever. Maybe it seemed like they were trying to move him around. Is that what we're going to see going down the stretch? Yeah.
I'm not trying to poke holes in coaching strategy here or what coaches do, but shouldn't you have figured all this out in August?
Agreed.
Juju McDowell is best in space.
Yes.
Let's get him in space. I don't know. I feel bad for DK Joyner, man, because he's been such good for a program, but he is easily, of the 3 running backs they've got on their team, the worst.
He just seems lost, not by him not knowing what to do, as if they just don't know how to roll for him.
No, he's completely out of position as a standard running back. He's a wildcat quarterback. He is a gadget wide receiver.
Yeah.
I think on sweeps, on stuff like that, I think he that's where his role needs to be. Running DK Joyner between the tackles, it's not. You have one of all the running backs on the roster that we've seen, in non-Furman action.
Yeah.
Mario Anderson is clearly the best running back the best running back. He's clearly the best running back on the team, but he's clearly the best running back for your base between the tackles, zone runs or whatever. Where Juju is your best scat back, if you will, and DK just needs to be he needs to almost be deployed like similar to how let's call it a slower Anthony Schwartz was at Auburn, where he's just a gadget player and that's it.
Him and Hobber should be on a rotation.
Yeah, 5 plays a game. Let's get him the ball, in gimmick plays.
You want to go stack on one side with like Legette, Hobber, and Joyner, and then move Joyner across in motion or something like that. You know what I mean? A sweep.
Yeah.
Now you got people guess. You got 3 big guys on one side, solid big dudes that can do anything. I'm with it, but yeah, he can't. That's why I was excited about it early on. Like, his athleticism, the size of him, knowing that he can chuck the ball. Like if they just handed him something, he just rolled out and just stopped and threw in deep to, juice or something. It would have been cool, but it really hasn't worked. And I'm with you 100%. Like, it just seems like they didn't know what they were going into, other than the fact that Rattler was the guy and Juice was the guy on the outside. Like, I think Legette fell in their lap this year. Right? They weren't expecting that. I don't think so. And then everything else has kind of been like, okay, well, this is what we got, so we're going with it. But it just seems odd so far, the way the season's going.
I can only hope that they'll get Juice back next year. Pretty sure he's got another year of eligibility because I don't think we're going to see him again the rest of this season, based off of chatter and such.
Let him get healthy. You know.
Yeah, and if he does choose to return, that's great. It'll be great for him, and then you'll have hopefully him and Harbor next year because Legette's heading to the NFL.
Yeah, I'm with you. All right. We kind of alluded to it a little bit earlier. The bad. Talk to me.
Yeah, Mario Anderson's got an injury. It's some sort of something on his leg. They said they're being very vague about what the injury is and the timetable for it.
Yes.
Whenever I see vagueness of that magnitude, I'm just assuming he's not playing against Missouri.
Yeah,
at the very least.
I'd go the same thing. I thought further testing on Monday. Monday came and went, and I didn't get any information back on that. So
yeah, I mean, he averaged almost 5 yards a carry against Florida this week. You know, we talked about it against Tennessee. His average was skewed somewhat by the one big 75-yard run.
Yeah.
He had multiple big 8+ yard runs against Florida this week, so much more consistent, and that's why it kind of sucks. I didn't even see when he got hurt.
I didn't see when he got hurt either because he played right into the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
Right now we're looking for the better bowl game. That's what we're playing for. We're trying to just play spoiler for some of these teams. Okay.
At this point, we're trying to keep some teams from playing in the SEC championship game.
Yeah.
I don't think bowl game is.
Hey,
I've lost faith.
Squirrel finds a nut, right? You know, but is there a chance that we get to see what we could have had with maybe if Mario is healthy enough down the stretch and a healthy Juju, what we could have had in that combination? Like that behind Spencer and a healthy Juice and Legette, man, wow, that's an offense. Coming out.
My thought is you'll see both of those guys back next year as well.
I'm with that.
So, and you got to support Lenore Sellers, right? Or Dante Reno.
I think so. You got to give it to him.
It's going to be one of those two because I assume Reno's going to be in the spring. So,
I keep sending you those tweets. I keep throwing them out there. The kid looks good. He seems he's saying all the right things. He's fired up.
So and I assume one of those two will pair with a transfer at some point and compete for the starting job going into August. I can't
wait for the end of the season here when we start wrapping up this in-season show and we get to kind of. I want to see who we think could come in the portal because I got a couple ideas. I don't want to talk about it now; it's early, but I got a few ideas.
Too early. Let's let them get in the portal first.
Yeah. All right, give me the ugly. Something we talked about a little bit already.
Clayton White's got to go. I don't want to fire a coach after 6 games. I don't want to fire a coach anyway. I mean, these people got families and everything, but no offense to Western Kentucky or Conference USA, but the SEC ain't Western Kentucky or Conference USA. Yeah. And his defense has not adapted at all since he's been here. And it really just came to a head against Florida this week. Brad Crawford from 24/7 had put up some numbers this week.
Oh boy!
Last 9 games against Power 5 teams. South Carolina's given up 318 points.
Hard to win that way, man. Hard to win.
Last year against Anthony Richardson in Florida, 38. Now, granted, you scored 60+ points in that Tennessee game, but you still gave up 38.
Yep.
You gave up 30 to Clemson. You won the game. You gave up 45 to Notre Dame and Tyler Buckner in the Gator Bowl.
Hasn't played this year really well.
Not great. You gave up 31 to North Carolina in the opener. Hey, I've seen Drake May in them this year.
Cool.
I'll take that.
Cool.
Only 24 to Georgia.
Yeah.
We've won. 30 to Mississippi State. That's not good. 41 to Tennessee this year against Joe Milton in Tennessee.
Who is average at best.
Now granted, 7 of those were on a pick 6. But 41 this past week against Florida, which is just completely unacceptable in the way that it happened. These are their ranks out of 133 teams at the FBS level.
Yeah.
Total defense yards per game, 451 and a half. 124th.
Out of 133.
Out of 133. Passing defense, 321.7 yards per game. That is dead last in the FBS. Nevada and UMass are doing better against the pass than you are.
That's terrible.
31.3 points a game. That's 107th. Rush defense, 129.8. We're in the top 40%, baby, of the FBS.
Let's get it.
Tackles for loss, 27. That's good for 120th. Fourth down conversion, they've given up 10, including 2 this past week on 4th and 10-plus yards against Florida. Unacceptable. 121st in the nation. They've only got 13 sacks on the year. I feel like we talk about that every week.
Yeah.
That's good for 80th. And then they've only had 7 takeaways this year, which is 94th in the nation. You remember DJ Swearinger when he played at South Carolina? He was their enforcer on that defense when they beat Clemson 5 years in a row. Mm-hmm. Played in the NFL for many years. I'm going to kind of try to read through this tweet as best I can. He said, so do I need to go be the DC at South Carolina for real, huh? Obviously, this is with zero disrespect because I'm behind 21-1, which is Emanwari and DQ Smith, 1,000%. But these guys should be put in better positions to show their skills at safety. They shouldn't be in coverage on the slot every other snap. Change it up, please. Emanwari was on Ricky Pearsall for the majority of the game.
OBJ, you mean? Oh, he looked like OBJ the whole time.
10 catches, 166 yards, and a touchdown, including the game-winning touchdown. Their perimeter defense was terrible the entire game. Like, they had no run contain on the edge at all. Jordan Strawn, finally, another edge sack. That was the only one in this game. That's now brings the grand total of 2 sacks this year from defensive ends, both from Jordan Strawn. What gets lost in it, though, I'll let you weigh in on Clayton White right quick here.
I feel like, Foghorn, Leghorn, and the Bulge, which way did he go? Which way did he? That's Clayton White. Okay, yeah, you came from West Kentucky. From what I remember in West Kentucky is they had to score 40 points a game to win, right? Maybe what was good about him was his turnover ratio, and he did get a lot of turnovers on defense.
And that helped last year and the year before as well.
Right.
They were turning the ball over. They're not doing that this year.
So is there a disconnect between the youth and White, or the new guys coming? Because there's a lot of guys that are seniors and eldermen on there, right? So they were there with him. Where's the disconnect, right? Like, something's changed somewhere in that locker room. Something's not the same. And I was going to say, when are we going to let the youth stop playing more? Because the numbers are pedestrian. If we're going to put up pedestrian numbers, and we might as well get these kids some experience, right? At this point.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I mean, if you're going to go down, you might as well go down in evaluation mode. Let's get Judge Collier out there at corner. Let's get some of these other guys.
Let Pup Howard play a little bit more. If you got to put him outside, get him in different positions, that's fine. But you only get interior pressure.
Hell, let's rush him off the edge, or let Stone Blanton do it and let him play in the middle.
Yes,
I'm with you. But another thing yes, turnovers hide a lot of warts.
Yeah,
on a defense, and they're not getting those, and it's exposing them even more. I'm not even going to go into some of the rants that Beamer went into after the game where he was basically saying we're calling pressures, but our guys aren't running them. And it was other things that he alluded to along those lines. Like,
oh my God, I'm glad you said this.
Because isn't that on you, big dog?
Thank you.
Isn't that on Clayton White? Isn't that on Dal Loggins and all the other coaches? That's on y'all.
Why aren't they listening?
If the players aren't listening to you, get somebody else on the field that will.
Thank you. And that's why I'm saying there's a disconnect somewhere because and it's so cool to do the Spider-Man meme and just point at everybody. but you're the head of the whole family, buddy. So if you're the guy and your DC is having a disconnect with that guy out there, you pull the player or you pull the DC to the side and say, what's going on, right? You take the bull by the. You're just sitting back playing, Johnny, I'm going to let you be the scapegoat. It's his fault. We called it. He didn't do it. Now, buddy, it looks just as bad on you because you're the head of the table. Mm-hmm. It all runs downhill.
100%, and that was it was a bad look, I think, for Shane Beamer after that game, and I don't know, maybe it was rage from breaking his foot or something. I don't know. Another thing I want to talk about from the ugly here that I wish I had saved the numbers because I saw it earlier. I saw it yesterday, and I made a note of it, but their offense in the fourth quarter, it's the Price is Right yodeler when he falls off the cliff.
Anemic.
Quarters 1, 2, and 3 are all pretty much the same, where they're scoring and they're putting up yards in quarters 1, 2, and 3. It's the fourth quarter. They are doing absolutely nothing. Putting points on the board, moving the football. I don't know what's happening there, but that needs to get fixed too. And part of that, is Rattler tired of running for his life by that point in the game and he's just wore out?
That O-line tired from being shuffled through and beat up the whole game? Like,
so I would think some of that could be part of it. I don't really know the answers.
Brian, again, though, this has got to go back. We're 2-6. Got to go back to coaching. It's been the same thing. Nothing's changed. We're seeing the same product, right? You've been seeing for the past 5 weeks. When we get to the end of the third, beginning of the fourth quarter, it goes to shit. Why can't you put Joyner in there as a spark in a wildcat play to change things up, give them life? Why aren't you trying different things? Because nobody else is expecting the different things because you've been giving them vanilla all year down the stretch.
And there was another play that I saw that absolutely bothered me. This bothers me in football in general. And I don't necessarily think this is just a South Carolina issue. But they had second and or something. It was a 3rd and 1, 2nd and 1 or inches, right? They're in the gun. And Gargiulo rolled the snap back. And you lose 11 yards. Yeah. That's a football epidemic problem in general. Like, how are you not working on 5 minutes every day? We're gonna quick run up to the center. I'm gonna pat you on the ass. I'm gonna go.
Yeah.
First down. Instead, our center is having to snap the ball back 7 yards and
get blown up.
I think that's a football epidemic problem, and it goes back to high school because nobody goes under center anymore. It's why I always love the Senior Bowl every year. And you're gonna. Now that I'm saying this out loud, when you come down here this year, Nino, you're going to look at it because none of the quarterbacks that are going to play at Senior Bowl have ever played under center. And they do it all week at the Senior Bowl. So that first day of practice it's like a Benny Hill scene.
Mess.
It's a mess. Just ball snaps dropped, everything all day. It's hilarious.
Hey, shout out Senior Bowl. Tyson Bagnet, right? Got his first touchdown in the NFL this week. So shout out to him.
Yep.
Yeah, I want to see something different. Give us something different down the run instead of the same, vanilla pudding pop that you keep feeding us every week. But now something different we could talk about, something that'll give us a little bit of hope and, maybe put a smile on our face. Let's talk about some recruiting. I was pleased about this gentleman. Talk to me.
They had a big weekend. A lot of guys on campus this week. I mean, several guys that are already committed were there. I think Reno was there this weekend.
Yeah.
They had the quarterback we talked about last week, Montgomery from Ohio was there.
Yep.
And he seemed to have, a good time of it this week. But we got a flip this week. Well, it's a flip back, I should say.
Yeah.
Because 4-star athlete in the 24 class, Jalewis Solomon out of Ellaville, Georgia, Schley County, had originally committed to South Carolina, but committed to Auburn. Well, he's back now. Decommitted from Auburn back to South Carolina, where he said he's done now. This is it. He's home. South Carolina's it. He's the number 10 athlete in the class, 269th overall. He's going to play defensive back. It's in Columbia. That is going to be needed. What have you seen from Solomon?
I'm excited to pair him with Kilgore back there, because in 6 games, at Shaley County, he's got 8 tackles, 4 solo, right? A tackle for loss, 4 pass breakups, and 3 picks. And it sounds like a ball hawk to me, and a guy who's not afraid to get down and dirty and hit. Something I think we can use in that secondary next year. It's been a solid, season, but I think with this youth movement, I think we're going to see a little bit of sunshine, the light at the end of the tunnel next season.
You can sell a lot of playing time, I think, on that recruiting trail.
Yeah.
They also had a few other guys in town this weekend. They had 4-star edge rusher Cameron Fountain, who's currently committed to Southern Cal.
Please.
3-star wide receiver Trey Horn was here this weekend. Georgia Tech commitment, along with, like I said, several of their 2024 commitments, including 5-star edge rusher Dylan Stewart, who need him like now.
Yes, please. Hey, they can get Fountain. If they can get Fountain, he's a dude. 35 tackles, 27 of them solo this year so far. 4 tackles for loss, 2 sacks, and a fumble recovery. This seems like a dude that just is a havoc problem. He gets in there and just causes problems.
The problem is the other team that shares those initials can also sell. We need you. Yeah. We need all the defense we can get out there as well. So
yeah, you're right.
In the make you feel old category, 2025 4-star offensive lineman Braden Jacobs of Beaufort, Georgia, 6'7", 310, son of former Auburn, Southern Illinois, and New York Giants running back Brandon Jacobs.
Yeah. Now I feel real old, but I'm going to see if we can scoop this kid for an interview, because I've done 4 interviews with kids from Beaufort, including Justin. I forget his last name, but his first name is Justin. He's starting running back for them right now with Beaufort, and we did 3 defensive guys coming out of there so far. So I think we got a little in with them. My boy Nino, see if we can get him out there and talk to him, see what that had to do with him, and why he's playing on the line. Big fella, right? Like you would think.
Well, 6'7", 310 ain't going to play at running back.
No. Hey, if you get him lean down, get him in shape, you're looking at, baby daddy over there, because 6'7" is a monster.
Well, hell, his daddy shouldn't have been playing running back at 6'4", 230.
Hey,
but he made it work.
That's on the light side. He was. Yeah, I feel like he was bigger than 230. He was 230 from the pectorals to the head. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, but it's a throwback there. It's nice to see. Hey, I love seeing those kids that follow in his footsteps. But he's not a running, like you said, not a running back. Still playing football, different position. It's pretty cool. We got a lot of that coming up recently in college football. You got the Rice out there. You got Kurt Warner's kid,
Marvin Harrison Jr.
Yeah. It's funny because nobody really talks about Kurt Warner, but his son is in the NFL, I believe, as a wide receiver, and then the other kid is a quarterback for
Temple.
Yeah. So pedigree's there. It's been pretty wild. All right. We usually come to my point, which is my segment. We're gonna roll this in because my segment has to do with this upcoming game. So let's talk a little bit about Missouri and what your thoughts on here, because I'm a little nervous.
And you should be. Missouri's basically surprising everybody in the SEC this year, right? They're 6-1. Don't think anybody had that coming into the year. They're 2-1 in the conference. Their only loss was a shootout to LSU that they easily could have won.
Yes.
Have had a couple things come their way. They haven't really been dominant, which is the only thing that maybe lends me any sort of hope here at all. Right. Except for this past week against Kentucky. So maybe they're starting to get it together. I don't know. So South Carolina is a team that can't stop the pass. Let's enter Brady Cook, who until the LSU game had not thrown an interception in 366 pass attempts. He comes in completing 71% of his passes for 2,046 yards, 14-3 touchdown to interception ratio.
Yeah.
They've got a 5-star stud at wide receiver in Luther Burden, who's finally starting to come into his own in his second year in the program. 56 catches this year for 808 yards and 5 touchdowns. He's got a good complement in Theo Weiss, who has played at UCLA and Oklahoma. He's finally having, the season I think we all thought he could have.
Yeah.
He's got 34 catches for 392 and 5 touchdowns. Tell me what you're worried about, though, because.
All right. So, and we mentioned it just recently, Brady Cook, and shout out to Brady Cook and himself, because he got booed by his own fans in the beginning of the season. And the kid just kept grinding, kept his head down, and look where they're at. And look at him, man. He looks really good. He's probably one of the hottest QBs in college football right now, and nobody's really even talking about him. Theo Weiss, man. Whew. I'm happy for the kid, like you said, finally. But we talked about their passing attack, right? But why am I having a bad feeling here that Cody Schrader and Nathaniel Pete could be the reason that the Gamecocks take an L, right? Schrader is at this point, he's a D2 transfer. Shout out to both schools, 2 D2 transfer running backs, right? He does smash every previous career high he's had. And it's crazy because Nathaniel Pete is a perfect compliment to him. Close to 5 yards per carry. He's a little bowling ball at 5'10", 200 pounds. The Gamecocks only get inside pressure. 2 sacks on the outside by the same gentleman we mentioned earlier in this episode. Could the counter, the delay, and the cutback kill them? As I think we had a discussion, killed them, 2 weeks ago? In the same style game, was 2 or 3 weeks ago, where they got beat on everything on the inside and on delays in the run game. Am I crazy to be scared here, or is this something I should be worried about?
Not at all, because it's 100% chance that Missouri is going to see what Florida did and had success with. Florida didn't have a lot of success up the middle. In between the tackles, did not have a lot of success. Why? That's where South Carolina's strength on defense is. But when Florida started running the delays, and you said the counters and everything to the perimeter of the defense,
smoked.
It got dicey quick. I hesitate to say what could happen if Trevor Etienne was 100% in that game, because I don't think he was.
No.
But Montrell Johnson, that was his name?
Yes,
yeah.
Right.
I mean, he had success outside, and that number 3, I didn't catch his name. But he was just killing them on the speed sweeps and everything to the outside. So I think you are 100% right to be worried, and it goes well when you've got a good offensive line like Missouri does, especially their left tackle, Javon Foster, who's an NFL guy.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a little worrisome for sure that they're not going to be able to do anything defensively to slow Missouri down. And when Spencer Rattler has to do it all by himself, I think that's going to get him into some trouble, because they've got a pair of they've got some DBs that are NFL good, especially Chris Abrams-Drain, Mobile area native, shout out. 4 interceptions on the year, 9 pass breakups, one of the 10 best in the country at that. Enos Rakestraw, 2 pass breakups and a forced fumble. Dalen Carnell, 4 pass breakups, had 6 last year. He's got 30 tackles. Marcus Clark's got 2 picks. This is a good secondary.
Yeah.
But to me, that is a fun matchup to watch, because that, to me, is South Carolina's strength is in their receivers and tight ends against Missouri's defensive strength, which is their secondary. I don't think they are as strong up front as they usually are this year, but it's other than Johnny Walker here, 18 solo tackles, 4 sacks. He's got to be a focal point up front, but I think it's going to be strength on strength for South Carolina, whereas Missouri's going strength on weakness, which generally speaking does not lend to good things.
Yeah, right. But here's my thing. I love Abrams-Drain, okay? And like I said, he's I put in the notes, he's top 10 in the country, 4 picks. I think he might be tied with 6 other guys for the most in college football. But he's 5'11". You can't put him on an island with Leggett. It'll be a bad day. Okay, so you're going to have to rotate through these guys, which is fine. Play zone or wherever we spy them over the top, obviously it's worked for them all year, right? If South Carolina can find the right matchup, Nicholas Harbor, this is
the week to turn him loose.
Yeah, this is the week where it's like, okay, we're going to have the guy who's going against CB4, who's huge, speedy, and good hands. Yeah, let's dibble and dabble this week. I'm with you there. I think
if for no other reason to take the heat off Leggett.
Exactly. I'm with you. 100%.
And then maybe that can open up underneath for your tight ends or for Amarion Brown or Omega Blake.
Omega's what, 6 foot, 6'1"?
Yeah. Get those matchups on some safeties.
Yeah.
It could be. Hopefully they're not down so much that it's just.
That first drive is going to mean everything. Because you're going to get to see whether we're going to be pushing forward or it's going to be like the Cleveland Browns against the 49ers where they're moving the line of scrimmage back 3 yards on every snap. Because the last couple of games, South Carolina has been letting teams move the line of scrimmage to start, and they don't need to give any other defenses any help with line of scrimmage is that, All right. We did enough breaking it down. Let's get to that time where we predict our scores here. Brian, give me your prediction. I don't think it's going to be a good one.
It's not. And I hate it because I've been the confident guy. I've, thought that they could win games that they've ended up losing. But we're past the point now of optimism.
Yes.
And I think Missouri is a big matchup problem for the Gamecocks this week. And I might be even a bit too optimistic with this. I got Missouri 41-28.
Okay. We're right around the same ballpark. And if it wasn't for the simple fact of me worrying about this ground game, I might have had the score a little different. But the fact that I think that they could get defeated on all aspects offensively, give me Mizzou 45-24. Injuries, don't know what we're going to get out of our run game. Don't know how that secondary is going to match up against us. And like you said, their strength, our weakness, it usually makes for a long afternoon for the guy on the latter side of it. I'm going to go Mizzou on this one.
Yeah, I'm with you. Missouri currently favored 6.5. That line's still the same. So no movement since it dropped on Sunday, for whatever that's worth.
I had a feeling it might go to 7 by game time.
7.5, I think, by the time we get there. Yeah.
We're normally 30 minutes. I knew this was going to be a long one. We're going to rant this one. I had a feeling. So it's been close to 50. But we had to get some stuff off our chest. It's been a long couple of weeks, hoping and praying things will change, and nothing has. But this is the Garnet Roost. I'm your co-host, Nino Brown. That's my guy. You see him. Deep Fried Draft, Brian Bosarge from the Draft Countdown. Let them know what you got going on before we close it out.
We're going to talk about wide receivers tomorrow night on the podcast. Top 5 wide receivers we currently project to the NFL. There will be nobody we've talked about tonight that will be on that top 5 list, but
that hurts a little bit.
it does, but there will be. It's going to be entertaining. A lot of stuff going on over there. So go over there if you want to get your mock draft fix on. Go to draftcountdown.com.
Yeah, those guys are the best. The animals. Shane, sicko. He's in like 2028 probably already.
Crazy.
Yeah. CFB Prime. We're your hosts. Garnet Roost. Hopefully we're talking better next week. We're out.